Hey there everybody, Joe here, good to see you again. We are on the second painting now of my How to Paint Water series. Now we're moving on to ripples, rapids, moving water. We're gonna put together a waterfall scene.
I'm here at a place called Fossil Creek, a real treasure that we have in the middle of the deserts of Arizona. And so this is an awesome example of some water just blasting over some rocks. Gives us some really good model of what water does when it breaks apart coming over a waterfall.
Hey, there's a world that this is just getting a little snippet of. Here's a couple little tree branches just shooting in from the edge of the picture. That's what I love about those kind of things. You know, they just tell us there's a world out there. This is about my waterfall scene. It's not about the sky, so I want to keep it simple. Just blue, white, anywhere. We're just making the colors of a sky, so I'm going to put more blue at the top. I am going to stick with that pattern. Let's put a bright cloud kind of popping up in front of this darker color. There we go. We've got like a, you know, maybe the beginnings of a rain cloud coming up from behind that hill. So I've got my bright white, and then down here, if it's a bigger cloud, it might have a shadow. So let's go to the cloud shadow color. Ooh, high altitude clouds, that's cool. I like that. Kind of looking up through this little hole in the sky, that's a fun feel. Now I'm ready to put my background hills in place. Have you ever looked at mountains from so far away that it's hard to tell, or let's just say objects, hills, high objects that are on the horizon, and it's so far away, you're wondering, is that clouds or is that mountains? Because the color is very similar. So we're gonna use this same shadow color. Let's put another hill coming across right here, and it needs to be darker. So I'm gonna keep it distant. Let's put more of my violet colors in there. Let's lighten that yellow highlight, because that also changes with the atmosphere. It's all distant, so the highlights and the shadows alike all need to change with the atmosphere. So those distant greens altered by that atmosphere color. You know, that's better looking. There we go, some distant clouds in the hills.
When water comes over a waterfall, it doesn't just come in a steady stream, it breaks apart into sections or clouds. And so when those sections float down, the air is blowing up, hitting them. And so it's the edges that catch the most air. And for that reason, we'll usually see something like a smile shape as a cloud floats down. The middle moves the fastest, while the edges catch the air and get blown up. And so if I use that shape, I can add a lot of motion to my waterfall. And look at the light on this. It's just a bunch of little drops of water, each reflecting the sun in the same way. And so this is why we have white water, and it becomes the bright white instead of the underwater color, is because we have so much surface reflection because of how many drops of water are all surrounded by reflective surface. We have the sunlight bouncing off with our more bright white here, maybe an orange glow from the sun, whatever color the bright sunlight is. But then you can see on the other side of it, very bluish colored shadows from the sky, from the surrounding scenery. And so we have a real good example. If we just remember to use that blue-violet shadow on the, you know, like we see on that left side, and then look at the bright white light, boom, bouncing right off of the more right-hand side of everything. I got to remember that color contrast and how well it makes that 3D waterfall.
So the water is bending and dropping over this. So I'll try to create the effect now of some clouds that are getting pushed by the wind. So I'm going to put lots of white on here, and I'm just going to do this. I really like this rock. So let's say that it's coming down and there's this big rock in front of it. Let's put lots of atmosphere color on here. We've got an interesting looking boulder. I'll go up here and add some of that purple color into the fall as well. I want to take time to really make a lot of small shapes, because that's what makes this look big and far away. If I just do this real fast, that's fun. Fast paintings are fun, nothing wrong with that. But if I want the drama of a giant shape that's far away, then I want to take time with my little brush to make a lot of little shapes in here. I'm going to make this line of shadow follow kind of a diagonal path, and that's going to cause the light to look like it's coming across this fall and hitting just the tops of these columns of water that are falling down. There we go. Make everything look kind of broken up and cloudy. All right, I'm ready to put some foreground in there. So now that I have a nice backdrop set, it gives me a good point of reference for how much atmosphere I want to add to each of these pieces of my landmass. This feels like it'd be cool if it just kind of ramps up here. Let's go like this and start making these cliffs come down. So let's say we've got like maybe a rocky cliff right here. Some dark spots, a little bit of vegetation coming through the mist. I should make a dark colored overhang, like maybe there's a cave. How cool is it to put some in-out depth to my landscape? And I don't know, up, down, maybe make it kind of hanging over. Who knows why or what? It's just a cool shape. Okay, now it's time to do similar light and shadow on this side, but here I want lots of sunlight, because see my line, see my shadow on that fall? Right here I want to put nice bright white coming across that fall. A lot of the dark color, a lot of the atmosphere color. This is a far away and big boulder that's down here in the mist of the fall, so I don't want it real dark. Atmosphere color, make it a little bluer as it comes down, not quite as much in the direct light. And again, this isn't my big tumbling waterfalls at this point. That might be awesome if I just continued that across the painting, but it'll take forever and it's not needed. So here I'm just going to put my smooth water trickling down the cliff. Now it's time to do the fun part, the waves.
So when you look out at that waterfall and you look where the deeper water has heavier current, then we start to see the waves have more of a spiky shape. So when I'm painting, I might use strokes that have more of a swoop to them so that I get that triangle shaped wave in between. But then over on the edges of this current, we have very horizontal, soft ripple patterns where we don't really have those swooping shapes. We just have very level and very subtle ripples. And so we want to be conscious of the difference that makes in the feel of current. So we have our heavy current with our spiky waves and our deep blue underwater. But then we have our soft current over on the edge where we see that lighter, more gold underwater. In this example, we have those two colors, which I love. I think it's just an awesome natural contrast, the gold against the turquoise.
This is something that I really love, and so I pulled out the little brush. On the edge, I want to make it go some kind of golden brown, just some brownish rock color, but not too intense. So to set it up, can't you just imagine some pools where some of these tiny falls are hitting rocky areas? Maybe this hits a pool and falls. I'm going to do what's under the water first and then put reflection on top of it. And then I'll flip-flop it and we'll do the reflection first and paint what's under it. Here I'm just using horizontal strokes to develop some shapes. It's going to resemble the little shadowed crevices between rocks or whatever's down there. So do you see that? So now this shape, a little smile shape, see that, like an open smile. Now if you can get that stroke, then you can very quickly go across your water and make shapes that look very much like reflections.
Now caustics are such an awesome thing. These bright lines that are focused on the rock beneath the water. It happens because the water is just bending the light to the same spot, just like a magnifying glass. It's always representing where a wave has caused the light to bend to the same spot. So each one of these rows is happening at just the right distance where that light is focused like a triangle. Boom. It's just the right distance to the rock to hit it when it comes just to a point, all the light. So we have dark light, dark light. It's taking away the light from the other places and concentrating it into the line. I love that. Just such an awesome effect.
Let's put some bright squigglies in there now. Little dabs of bright yellow. All I did was put some water in my primary yellow, just right out of the can. I put water in it so that it'll push to the side, just like the other colors did. Do you see how that pushes to the side? One little scrape with the end of my brush, and I get those tiny shapes. And maybe there's a few little bright spots here. Let's do something fun and just put a couple teeny weeny highlights on that. Just at a glance, we'll get the impression of the bright, sunlit, shallow water with the reflection on top of it. So now I'm going to move over to here and blend my underwater into the reflection color. So a reverse of order. Let's do reflection first. Okay, now I'm going to put underwater color. I'm putting the underwater color in between the reflection color because I want there to be more reflection color, and the shapes have gotten so close that now it's an interconnected mesh of reflection color. It's all made of parts, and so being aware of those parts, that's why we're going to great lengths to go out in the field and look at this happening, because if you can just become fluent in your recognition of these parts, then it's very liberating to understand exactly what's being created and why as you're painting, and be able to just say, oh, my paint dried, no big deal, we'll just apply it again and just rerun the system.
Now look at this beautiful cascading water that we have. You can see on each one of these little miniature waterfalls that we have a very sudden change from the deeper underwater colors to this white water. Right above that, you can see our darkest, deepest colors as, you know, whatever kind of rock or mud or tree root is under the water is facing more toward us. So we see more of the underwater color. But then look across the very surface out there by those cattails, by the rock, we see reflection on the flat surface. But then when it bends toward us, that's when we start seeing some of those deeper colors, because it's showing us some of the underwater. And then boom, we have the bright white water shooting out. So I can use that in my painting to immediately deliver that same effect by just putting the deeper color across where the bend is, and then boom, white that gets a little darker as it falls more vertically, because it reflects more as it's facing up toward the sky, and reflects darker colors as it starts to fall more vertical. And then it hits white water again when it makes contact with the water and it's churning and bubbling. So we usually have a slightly darker shadow right where it enters the white water. That fall comes in, boosh, and we have a little bit of a shadow, a darker color in between the fall and that bubbling, boiling white water. I just love looking at this. I feel like I'm reading it now, and that makes it more exciting for me, because now that I'm reading what's happening, I feel like I'm collecting more information for my creative work every single time I come out to a place like this.
So this is going to be fun. Let's put some shadow in there. Here's my underwater color again. Here's my brighter color. So I'm going to get this lighter atmosphere color. This is the same color I used to put shadows on my clouds. I'm going to just put it in that fresh, wet paint somewhere in here, smash it against it, and go down like this. Smash it in there, wipe down. Smash it in there, wipe down. Maybe a little bit of a curve, more in some spots than others. Now I don't want to go over this a whole bunch of times because I need it to stay brighter at the top. And I'm going to be careful not to just go on a straight line. Now it's good for it to grab those other colors. I want to see that because that's what makes it look like there's some transparency to this water. Some of that in there, some of the shadow color. Oh, you know, we got some of those colors. It's our underwater mix. Scribble it around a little bit. Now we see through that water, and when we drag this down, it's just like doing our cliffs up there. Just like doing these cliffs where we see the rocks showing through. We can see whatever's under that water showing through. Who knows what kind of colors are in there. So I'm just putting some, ooh look, we've got a few rocks in there now.
Now if you look down a stream like this, there's one thing that really gives away the fact that it is moving, and that is the angle of the little rows of ripples. So if you look at all of these ripples across the surface, they're just ever so slightly tilted down toward the middle or tilted down away from the edges, because as the water bumps into the edges of the stream, it maybe slows down and then bounces back into the stream, and it causes these rows of ripples that come toward the center, and we have this angle. So all I have to do is slightly angle all of my ripples, or little rows of ripples, just a tiny bit. I can add lots of movement to my stream just by using this little bit of angle that causes it to look like it's coming this way. The middle tends to move faster than the edges, and that causes these angles on those ridges that come out from the edges of the bank.
So let's put the underwater color on there first. So let me grab some of that lighter purple again and start making these little shapes. They're almost straight. And so I have almost level lines. They're slightly sloping down this way. I'm making these waves follow a path that is getting lower just slightly as it moves over here, so that it looks like the middle of that river is moving quick and the edges are dragging as they hit things. So again, I'm just using that same technique where I put the strokes on, and then I come in here, I hit the top of the strokes, and we're just creating little waves. Now out here on the edge, I'm not making them as big. So then I want to start seeing some rapids. So let's have some fun making rapids. In here, I want to make a bigger wave. All right, let's do some more. Love painting waves. All right, let's do a big one right in here. We've got wave, wave, wave. I'm going to kind of offset it, put a couple waves right in here. Now these are closer, so maybe they don't have quite as much of that reflection on them, but I'm going to make it nice and big. A teeny weeny bit of yellow, and then I'm going to put white. You know, who knows what kind of bright colors are down there. There we go. Here, let's just put a bunch of white water. This is I'm going to handle this similar to back here. I'm just going to put lots of splashes. We've got the purple color, get shadows in there. Let's get the lighter shadow color. And there, lots of white water in here. We're going crazy. This is the reflection of the waterfall. Everything reflects on the water. So the more I can think about how to reflect all those different objects, the better. Let's get the big texture going. Like that, get some of that underwater color right in there. Nice, bright, muddy splash. Now we need, you know, when this goes up, it's gonna surface again. It's air bubbles. So right up in here, I wanna see some foam, just like we do sea foam. Some foam coming up here to the surface after it hits that water. And then I'm gonna make this foam, I'm just gonna make it completely merge with all of my white water out there. This is just gonna merge into one big foam covered scene because we got lots of turbulence in that water.
As that white water comes down into that turquoise water, look at how it just glows, because the light is hitting all of those air bubbles under the water, and then that light is shining back out of all that turquoise colored water, and so we get that very bright turquoise right at the base of any white water that's coming down and hitting the water. So I can use that effect too to get lots of deep, translucent, you know, magical feel to my water.
You know, we end up with these patches, these skinny strands where these shapes are separating it. So I'm just cutting in between the light color that I just put on instead of painting the foam. I'm gonna go right up here and start putting my white water across there. Let's get some of this bright green right there. Pure white, that's what we're gonna light that up with, is just pure white. Let's try to make it a little bit more of a gradual transition of the little rapids in there. So let's just grab little bits of it and do these horizontal paths like this. Let's grab some of that purple and just go dut, 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 right across here. The current's dragging it. You know, it's making rapids, the current's dragging it out to the side. Maybe there's a rock in here. This will be fun. Let's put a little rock right in the middle of these rapids. Let's just put a dark color in the middle. Let's take that purple and just put it right around the edges. There we go, there's a little rock out there now. I think some of that deep water color will look good. Some of my turquoise. I'm thinking we need mist in here. So I'm gonna do it the easy way. We're gonna do this the easy way. Let's put a little bit of water on the canvas. Let's take some of our purple color, blend that in there, just smear it over it. So let's just put that in there and stir it around. Then we're gonna get a big dry brush and just wisp it all together. Let's get some clouds going, some brighter spots, darker spots. Take our purple and our shadow color, jungle shadow color, redo this edge. The more we leave to imagination, the better. That waterfall is just, it's just huge and it's hitting the ground hard, and I just think I should see more mist up in here floating across. Let's put more of that purple. This is our further rock, so we want to use more of this purple on this one. Here I took a clean brush and put white in it. I just want to see some bright light hitting these rapids, just hitting that spot. I want the further away fall to be smaller than the close fall. Look how they're equal. This is equal height, so no problem. Just make it bigger and higher. Put the colors back down here. We had that color, some of this color, maybe a little bit of this one. We want to have this slightly sloping down to the left. Slightly, we don't want it a lot. So I'm gonna mix my two colors again. Let's go like this. Let's make a wave here and here. We're just gonna reapply a few little rows, just enough to give the feel, just enough in a row to just give the feel of these waves sloping. So let's spread this out just enough that I can get a little bit of reflection on the base of those waves. You're creating the direction that the water is moving by the angles that you put, and they're always just slight. We have these slight rows. So now I've got this line, doesn't look great anymore. Oh, that's a great spot to just put a rock. All right, now just imagine, what if we had like a dinosaur bird, a pterodactyl or something, one of those big dinosaur birds swooping down, drops down in this and takes a turn this way. Just think of that motion. So I'm gonna paint that. So down here we'll add all that atmosphere color. See, here's my purple wing going right down to his little body that's just right here. Not much body at all on these guys. Put some light coming through that wing. Primary yellow, let's really shift this toward yellow good. Look how it makes that go right into that waterfall. He's distant now.